In many organizations, profits have always been king, but now there's a co-king: relationships. Tommy Spaulding teaches how exceptional organizations and individuals have prospered by putting people first. Tommy is leading through the power of transformational relationships. Tommy's compelling framework, the Give-Get principle, has helped leaders build relational competence into their organization's culture, resulting in impressive profit margins, motivated employees, loyal customers, successful innovation, and powerful brands. With his sincerity, warmth, and terrific sense of humor, Spaulding has a magical quality that inspires listeners to execute positive change.
And I was a real struggling high school student. I have what they call dyslexia, so I read everything backwards, and I failed freshman year, had to go to summer school, and I failed my sophomore year, had to go to summer school twice. Figured that one out. And junior year, I barely passed, but I had to go to summer school, and then I was senior class president, graduated my senior year, but then I had to go to summer school my senior year just to get my GPA high enough so I could actually graduate. It was struggling for me. And I used to say in my job interviews as I graduated high school that if you took my high school GPA and my college GPA, I had a perfect 4.0. I remember my senior year, and it was a hard year for me because all my friends were going to all these amazing schools: Michigan, Notre Dame, Stanford, Harvard, and they graduated magna cum laude and summa cum laude, and I graduated high school, thank God almighty, cum laude. I mean, it was hard. It was hard.
Tommy Spaulding rose to become the youngest CEO and president of Up With People, one of the world's largest global leadership development organizations. He's a past director at IBM, founded the largest high school leadership and civic program in Colorado, and is the first leader in residence at East Carolina University. Tommy has lived and worked on 4 continents, traveled to more than 60 countries, and has completed 2 advanced degrees, an MBA and a master's in nonprofit management. A gifted public speaker, Spaulding has won high praise from top experts.
Everything Tommy does, he does with passion and energy and insight. I want to tell you, he's going to be tremendous for your organization.
And when I started this youth program in Colorado about 7 years ago, one of my dreams I had was, I believe in America, philanthropy is really all backwards. We use, in America, philanthropy as a form of punishment. I know a lot of great people in this room volunteer because of the spirit of volunteerism, but if you really look and dissect about philanthropy in America, any high school, if you cut class, you get in trouble, you get sentenced to community service. You get a DWI and a DUI, and you get in trouble with the law, get a little vandalism, you go to court, the judge sentences you to community service. We have to flip that and use community service as a form of volunteerism. It's the rent you pay to live in this great country. And that's the issue that we're facing here in America. And I believe that if every high school kid can spend a couple weeks in we used to call it developing country, a third world country, now we call it emerging countries, but if every kid can go to Ethiopia, we'd have a different country. We'd have a different world. So we started a program, and every year we take kids to developing emerging countries. And I remember 6 years ago, I took 20 high school kids, poor, black, white, Hispanic, very poor, on the other side of the tracks in Denver. We took these 20 kids with nothing, and we went to Ethiopia. And the first day there, they see hundreds of people walking around with no clothes. They realized they had everything. Everything. Those 20 lives are changed.
Relentless change, scarce resources, heightened competition. These challenges have made it increasingly difficult for organizations of all types to fulfill their missions and deliver value to their employees, customers, and other stakeholders. Meanwhile, within these organizations, people are starving to find meaning in their work and make a positive difference in the world. Desperate for solutions to these challenges, many leaders look to technology and the latest management fads. But they're neglecting the one thing central to success in any endeavor: relational competence. The ability to forge human connections built on trust, generosity, and the authentic desire to put others first.
The interview was in upstate New York, and there was 10 finalists, and they all went to Duke, and William & Mary, and Harvard, and Yale, and Princeton, and they all had 4.0s. They're all magna cum laude students, and you know my history. And we went into the room, and where this was structured, it was 10 Rotarians that were interviewing the 10 candidates. And the 10 Rotarians were kind of in a banquet room, and they asked the 10 candidates to hang out in the bar area and I'm S, and there was 10 candidates, so I was like the 8th person to go. So I had like a 3-hour wait at the bar. I said, well, I'm just going to get a drink. So I went to the bar and ordered a Diet Pepsi. And I did order a Diet Pepsi. I was good. And I decided to have a conversation with the bartender because the competition was so fierce. You can see the stiffness in the room. No one was talking to each other. I mean, they were all Harvard was over there, Princeton was over there, Yale was over there, and they were just reading their notes and practicing their resume. I mean, no one talked to each other. But I had nothing to lose. I went to East Carolina with a 2.0. I'm just blessed to be there. This bartender really intrigued me. He was a 4th-generation owner of this restaurant. You know, Michael can kind of testify to this being a 3rd generation of your company. But a 4th generation. And then his son, who was like 4 or 5 years old, was running behind the bar, and that was going to be the 5th generation. And just to hear his stories about owning this restaurant and the family traditions, and I just had this authentic conversation. I wasn't trying to sell anything to him. I wasn't trying to get anything from him except the Diet Coke and a good conversation, the stall before my interview. But it was a beautiful conversation, a kind of conversation I try to have with people that I meet all over the world. Just a genuine get-to-know-you, curious about people. Well, I got called for the interview. I went in there, and I just spilled my heart. Talked about my travels around the world and my passion for making a difference. I have a dream to start a high school leadership program, which is now the largest high school program in Colorado. But back then, it was just an idea about teaching kids about service and volunteerism. I just shared my heart. And then when I went to the SAT score, I said, did you know Einstein graduated at the bottom of his class? Thomas Edison failed out of 3rd grade or 7th grade, and Michael Jordan got cut from his high school basketball team. I went through all the overcoming obstacles. Eisenhower graduated at the bottom of West Point and became the great president. I mean, I just tried to turn that around. And I think I had these guys' hearts because I was selected as the top 2 final candidates. So the group of 10 Rotarians narrowed it down to 2 people. This Indian girl from Harvard with magna cum laude record that wanted to get her MBA in Africa so she can start hospitals to cure AIDS, and Tommy Spaulding from East Carolina with a 2.0 that wanted to just change the world. And 5 of these candidates, or 5 of the Rotarian boards, were so high on Harvard, her academic criteria, and she was also runner-up last year, so she came back the following year to apply for this award again. So 5 were for Harvard, but the other 5 were really taken by Tommy Spaulding. They thought I was authentic and genuine and passionate and just a good kid. But they were fighting back and forth, 5 for Harvard, 5 for Spaulding, 5 for Harvard, 5 for Spaulding, back and forth, back and forth. I mean, it was a dead heat. No one was budging. So finally, the chairman of this committee, and I heard this story a year after. So the chairman of this committee, a guy named Tom France, who was actually the only person I knew in that room, was a friend of mine, a mentor who passed away actually last year. Tom France actually told me the story a year after it happened. After this committee was dead set between Spaulding and Harvard, 5 and 5, they said, let's take a break. Let's just go to a bar and have a drink, and we'll talk about it. So the 10 people got up out of their banquet room, walked across the bar. It was like a Miller Lite commercial, 5 for Spaulding, 5 for Harvard, back and forth on the bar. Bartender was going back and forth, listen to it. So finally, the chairman of the thing had a great idea. He said, we're in a dead still lock. We need a deciding vote. The bartender was in the room the entire day, wasn't he? Let's ask him. Mr. Bartender, you got to meet the 10 candidates from all over the country. Which one should get the $50,000 Rotary Ambassadorial Scholarship, free MBA for 2 years? You're the deciding vote. And the bartender says, I didn't meet anyone except that Tommy Spaulding kid. It's got to be the nicest kid. He came up to the bar and just talked to me for 2 or 3 hours. The nicest, genuine kid. The bartender from upstate New York was the deciding vote, and I got the scholarship.